Hello, my loves. Hello, beautiful people. We are going to talk about trauma bonds today. I know that we have talked about in the past all these kind of like self betterment things, and I promise I'm going to get back to that. It's just like the mental health is so broad, and not only do I want to be able to encourage you guys and give you self betterment tips, but I also too want to talk about the times when you might be feeling down or you're noticing people around you feeling down, and you can see the signs and really know information about it to educate you. And then you get the solutions to how to break it. So it's almost like a self-betterment as well. But I promise we'll get back into the other stuff of like the encouragement, the happy vibes. But for now, we are going to talk about trauma bonds. I really think it's important because it's something that a lot of us are going through and we might not notice it. Or the fact that TV and everybody romanticizes it, which I'm definitely going to talk about some of the known relationships just in TV that people idolize to a certain extent. And it's like, that was a trauma bond. That was not cute. That was actually very detrimental to a person's health, mental health. But nonetheless, if you are interested, make sure that you just keep on watching. So I really want to start off first with talking about what a trauma bond is, because we hear it all the time. But a trauma bond is essentially when a victim or the person being abused actually has an attachment to their abuser. Now, to normal people, I gotta put those in quotes every time I say that, but to normal people, they may think it's weird, but to the victim or abuser, they have a connection to this person. Now, that happens because typically the abuser is not always all bad to them. This is how they groomed them. They start off being very sweet, very loving, buying them gifts, giving them all the attention, making them feel valued. And then over time, that's when kind of the true colors start to show, where they are criticizing them, they're making them feel bad about themselves, they're giving the actual abuse, devalidating the person's feelings, and then when it's all said and done, they do nice things on top of it again, almost in an apology like setting. So it makes it where the person who is abused or the one that's traumatized from whatever it was looks at that person and is like, you know what, yeah, they did that and that super sucked, but they're not all bad, they love me, you know, they're making excuses, just those kind of things. So the point is, it kind of confuses the victim or a person being abused, because the abuser is not terribly bad to them. They have good moments. So a trauma bond is specifically where the victim is attached to their own abuser and sees them as kind of a multi-dimensional person who really means them no harm. When actually that's not the case, but that is what is portrayed to them. So I want to talk about the signs of how you know that this is a trauma bond. This is not one of those, oh, we just have our moments, or, oh my God, I'm tired. We have our moments, or, oh, they just get angry and, you know, like, it's okay. They're justifying it. So let's get into those signs. So the signs. The first sign that you are in a trauma bond, hopefully you're not the abuser, but then again, hopefully you're also not the victim. But the first sign that a person is in a trauma bond is most times they're making excuses for the abuser for what happened. Like if they slap that person across the face and they say, oh, well, you know, he or she was just angry at that point in time. You know, they didn't mean it. They're making excuses for things that they should not make excuses for. If they are making excuses for unacceptable behavior, you're most likely in a trauma bond. This is someone that you care about, but they did something very hurtful to you and you are willing to overlook it. So that's definitely sign number one. Sign number two is where you are keeping the things that are happening to you from friends and family. You are lying for them. It kind of goes under making excuses for them, but you are also lying for them to make it not seem as bad as it really is. We all know most times we lie because we don't want the truth to be out there. So question yourself why you're lying for someone that hurts you or, you know, does things towards you that they really shouldn't do. Number 3, you are blaming yourself for things that they do, their reactions. Now, everyone is in control of themselves. So if this person, whoever is the victim, is blaming themselves on how someone else reacted to them or what they did to them, making them feel like they are the problem, they had like made this person do this. No, this person decided that's what they want to do, but baby, you have a trauma bond if you are blaming yourself for someone else's actions. It is not your fault. So that's definitely sign number 3. If you are blaming yourself for something someone else did, trauma bond. The last sign is if you are feeling uncomfortable being away from your abuser. Now, normally, if this is an abuser that's strictly cruel all the time, you would think that a person would want to run away. But the fact that you are overly conflicted about this person because they're nice to you, but then they have their rude moments, but then they're nice again, the fact that you are uncomfortable leaving such a dangerous situation may really put into question if you are in a trauma bond. So just think about, do you feel uncomfortable leaving this person like you always have to stand beside them 24/7, or you have to seek their approval? You're possibly in a trauma bond. You need to get out. You need to get out. So I actually want to get into now when we talk about all the things on TV that romanticize trauma bonds. Strictly Euphoria, that's definitely one of them, and I will tag above. I actually did a whole chit chat on Euphoria, but it still shows so many mental health issues that I want to touch on. So we are going to discuss some known characters and situations on TV that we watch every day that really highlight trauma bonds without saying that it's a trauma bond. Now, I just want to say strictly for trauma bonds too, they are relationships that kind of almost go in a circle where it's like things are good, then things are going downhill, things are super duper terrible, people separate, break up or whatever, and then they get right back together, and then it's a whole cycle again. So guys, I want you to think about the infamous Maddie and Nate on Euphoria. Now, Nate had a whole bunch of issues personally to me, but think about how him and Maddie continuously would break up, get back together, then they would do crappy stuff to each other and then break up again and then get back together. And not just that, but the last time before they broke up, how Nate was looking, he basically broke into her room. Spoiler if you have not finished Euphoria, but you should have by now. But how he broke into Maddie's room, basically he had a gun and he threatened to shoot her if she did not hand over the CD that he was looking for of his dad and a minor. And in the midst of him basically threatening to shoot her, because he put the gun to her head and she was crying, and then he switched it and turned it around to where he put the gun to his head and essentially pulled out the emotions from her of her being afraid that he was going to kill himself to tell her where the disc was. If that is not the most toxic, most traumatic thing in the world, he utilized his ability and her empathy for him, that her love for him, to get what he wanted. And then even afterwards, he apologized to her and was crying as if it was his fault. Well, it was his fault. No. But he was apologizing and crying to her, trying to basically butter up and soothe her over. He even actually said in the clip, he said, "I was joking, gosh." Who jokes like that? Who jokes like that? And prior to all of that in their relationship, you can definitely tell that Maddie, even though she was not innocent, she was in a traumatic bonding relationship, because she would always make up excuses for Nate. She would call him a piece of crap, but she would always make up excuses on why she had to get back with him. She never let it go. She would always go back because it was almost like that's where she felt valued the most. I mean, The signs and symptoms that we were talking about here from Jump, hello, they were in a trauma bond, and it really killed me on the show, even though maybe on social media in real life, nobody approved of that relationship because it was ridiculous. But in the show, they romanticized Nate and Maddie's relationship as if they were meant to be together, at least from Rue's perspective, even though it was the most toxic, disgusting thing that I've probably ever seen. Does anybody else agree? So anywho, that is definitely one couple on screen that is romanticized when it's really just a trauma bond and you need to run like fast. Okay, this next one I'm going to say, I hope at this point you guys are not questioning the genre of shows I watch, because honestly it's a wide range. But this one is from The Have and the Have-Nots with Veronica. And I had to take a step back from watching the show because it was utterly overwhelming how nasty and crude Veronica was. Like, I literally had anxiety every time she came on the screen because she was always stirring up some stuff. Like, it was like overwhelming. But anyway, Veronica and Jeffrey. So Veronica is essentially a former lawyer, or she is a lawyer, one of the best known lawyers, and she has a son with a judge, and his name is Jeffrey. Jeffrey's the son. Jeffrey, at some point, decides in the first season to divulge to his mother that he is gay. And Mom is not having it. Veronica is irate about it. Prior to that, Veronica and Jeffrey actually had a very close relationship for a mother and an adult son. He definitely saw her approval. He loved her. He got validation from her because he tried to be that golden child for her, because he was the only child and he had very high expectations of him for her. So even though this is not like a normal relationship type of trauma bond, it definitely was, intimate relationship trauma bond. It definitely was a trauma bond between mother and son, because when she found out that he was gay, she went to all extents of the earth to make his life a living hell. It's so overwhelming, but it was almost like she would cut him off. She would punish him if he did not, even though he was gay, if he did not present himself as not gay in the outside world, meaning even though she was like, yeah, like you can be gay, but you still have to be with a woman. You have to marry this woman. You have to have a child with this woman so that A, I have a bloodline that runs down, and B, also you are not tarnishing our name as the only son. And it was very overwhelming because she actually blackmailed Jeffrey. So not only did she express her disdain for him being gay, she used the fact that he loved her so much. She blackmailed him to do all these things with this woman to keep up appearances, and she only praised him when he would do the things that she wanted him to do. So just like we talked about before of how all of this even happens, she loved him, gave him praise when he was doing what he was supposed to do, and that way, after that, when he was going downhill or when he tried to stand up for himself, she would devalue him. She would, verbally abuse him. And then when he would go back to being in his box and being in his role that she wanted him to be in, she would go back to loving him and giving him the things that he wanted. And he would justify her actions for a long time. Like, Mom's just trying to, get used to the fact that I'm gay, or no, she wouldn't do that. Even though she's already done crude things to him, he was definitely making excuses for her. And in the end, he still sought her approval. After all of that, he still sought her approval for the longest time until he was able to recognize that this isn't okay. This is a trauma bond. Like, have any of you guys watched The Have and Have-Nots? Tell me down below in the comments if you felt like, if you liked Veronica or disliked her. Because when I say that show made it so overwhelming to me, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm sensitive, but that was so overwhelming to watch her as a mother use her son that way and to demand her son into those things. And anyway, trauma bond, trauma bond, trauma bond. It was a trauma bond. And then the last relationship that I got, it's another like mother-child dynamic. But we all know the Grey's Anatomy, where Meredith and her mother, Ellis Grey, the great Ellis Grey that has this big name, and then Meredith trying to fit into her shoes. Now, even though for the most part, I believe I'm all caught up, so I can't remember all 18 seasons in my head. But I know, at least for the most part, Ellis has been dead most of those seasons, but Meredith has hallucinations or memories of her mother a lot of when she was alive. And some of them in the memories really show that she had a trauma bond with her mother, where she loved her mother to death, even though her mother continuously devalued her. Her mother was always saying how, you know, you're ordinary, or if you're not extraordinary, like, then who are you? Those sort of things. And the only time she got praise from her mother was when she was doing something good, like something that her mother would be proud of. It was once again that cycle of, you're not good enough, you know, you're not the person who I raised you to be, to when she finally did something good, it was all out praise. Her mother was so proud of her and knew that she could do it, just to break her down all over again when she was going through something. Now, for the most part, these are hallucinations, or like delusions that Meredith has. But at the same time, the point is Meredith sought her mother's approval for so long in the show. She sought it for so long, just when her mother would complain about anything anyway. Like, you know, so I feel like even in their relationship, the infamous Grey's relationship, mom was not that great of a mom, if you ask me. But that definitely was another trauma bond that on TV is shown as extraordinary mother, extraordinary daughter. But it's really not like that. Meredith had so much pressure on her, and it took her a very long time to distance herself and her success from her mother's success. And even now, like Parkinson's disease, when she was trying to solve it, I believe, it's all in memory of her mother, because that's what her mother died from, if I'm not mistaken. So it's really obviously, in all of the scenarios that I listed for all these very known shows, it's very hard for people to be able to distance themselves from the person who is their abuser, whether it be verbally, physically, sexually, in any type of manner. So guys, tell me if you've noticed with any of those characters that it was a trauma bond from jump, because it was. Now, this is the part of the video where this is the most important part. It's kind of how to solve it in the treatment that needs to be done, really, so that you can get over being in a trauma bond if you are also in one, or just for those characters. But first things first, you really need to be able to seek a therapist to talk about it. Therapists do wonders. And if you can get your hands on one, or a counselor, just someone to talk to, because that's technically my second suggestion, is for you to find natural support and loved ones, people that can help you through this as you think about what's going on. Because at the end of the day, if you're in a trauma bond, obviously it's probably not easy, and obviously you're probably confused, so you need to be able to have someone to speak with you honestly. Now, number 3, my suggestion is also to analyzing the signs. We've talked about it at the beginning of the video. If you find yourself hard to distance from this person, you're always seeking approval from this person, you're making excuses for their unnecessary behavior, you're probably in a trauma bond. Recognize the signs, and hopefully that'll help you kind of dismiss all the nice things, because those nice things do not add up to the ramifications of all the bad things. I'm just saying. And then the last one, limit your self-blame. It is not your fault for what is happening to you, but you can make the decision to walk away. I know it might not be easy, no matter, everybody's situation is different, whether you depend on them financially, emotionally, they have some sort of attachment or like some sort of linkage to you, because that's typically what happens, and they make it hard for you to just be able to say peace out and leave. But you can do it. However that may be, cut them off, because they are no good to you. They only make you more confused and more unhappy and question yourself when you're not the one that needs to be questioning yourself. They need to be the one being questioned. So, anywho, those are the treatments for hopefully exiting out of a trauma bond and being able to heal. I hope this helped anyone that watched this video. I hope that I'm not the only freaking one who sees these trauma bonds in these shows, even though they're good shows, but I hope I'm not the only one that sees it as a trauma bond and not a relationship to idolize Maddie and Nate from Euphoria. But I talk a lot of junk, but Euphoria was actually a very good show. It just was such a triggering show. But anyway, guys, let me know down in the comments below if you've noticed on TV any other trauma bonds that are just idolized. Let me know what you thought of this video, and make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.